All right, so to add music and an animated title to our animation, the first thing we're going to do is if you don't have your video as what's called the timeline view, we're going to just press this button on the bottom left corner here, right? Right now it's in this frame animation, which is good for just kind of setting individual delays, and you can get your timing if you wanted to have a pause at some point. But if we want to start adding other layers to it, then we need to go to this timeline view. Alright, so right now, and actually it should have put this into a group. I'm going to go back, because if you notice my layer, I have like all these 60 layers now, right? So I want to go back and I want to put these, I want to make it so it shows up in one grouping. So I'm just going to select all these pictures here. And if you drag it to a folder, now it's a group. And now if I change this to the timeline, it's not taking up as much of that space. Alright, so I went in there again and I just organized all of my pictures into a folder basically, which in Photoshop terms is called a group. To convert that audio, right, so we would go to YouTube and find some kind of music. Maybe I'll put in some relaxing music. We'll search for that.
Do you have like a school headphones like
Yeah, in that blue crate down there. What kind of, oh, we have an ad. You gotta love the ads, right?
You just install an ad blocker.
I think I have it, but it's not taken for some reason. All right, so we would take this address, all right? If you're concerned about or wondering how to convert this music, so we have our YouTube link. We're going to paste it in here. Press start. And then this orange button here, if you left click it to download it, and then we right click it to save the link as, it's going to say MP4 video. And you can put that wherever, in a folder somewhere. All right, so I can see that MP4, which is another format for audio, that'll work for that. All right, so that would be getting our audio converted. All right, back to Photoshop. All right, so our timeline navigation or window allows us to have different layers. So let's start with that audio, right? All we have to do now is click the music icon, select add audio, and now I'm just going to go to where that file was. Yeah, it's in the links page of the blog. All right, so now I'm going to, what do we notice? Is this audio is a lot longer than our video is in here, right? So what we want to do is we want to use this zoom slider on the bottom. All right, I'm going the wrong. So we can go into here. So this little slider on the bottom allows us to zoom in on our timeline and see more or less of it. And then I can just drag the edge of it over. There are ways you can cut these things also, but I want to kind of have it. All right, so now if we have this audio file in here, and we play it, we have this maybe unmatched audio in there, but it plays throughout nonetheless. All right, so audio was the one thing I wanted to show you guys how to do. The other thing is adding some titles. All right, so if we go back to the beginning here, all right, I think it would make sense to have the title kind of before our video and our audio starts. Possibly not the audio. What you can notice, though, is that you can move this stuff along the timeline, all right? So let's move the video over a little bit. Now, the duration of this, right now it's 5 frames, it's 10 frames. So these videos, I believe, were 10 frames per second. Let's check that out. We can check our frame rate. If you click on the stack here, our options, and if we go to set frame rate. No, that's why we grouped them all together before we made that timeline. So let's change our frame rate to 12. So now we should have about 5 seconds of video in there. 3 to 8, yep. Did everybody see how we changed that frame rate? Yeah. So we click here, go to set frame rate. Where am I? I'm looking up there. All right, and we made it 12, right? Because there were 60 pictures across 5 seconds. So 60 divided by 5 would be 12. All right, that way we should get that accurate time rate for that. So click on the hamburger stack thing over here and then go to set timeline frame rate, and there's a drop down there for them. Typically video is done at 29.97 or 60 if you want to get like slow motion type of stuff. All right, so now let's put a title on here. So we're going to just move back here to the beginning, and if we select the T tool, we can click and drag, and we can put a title onto our project here, which, I don't know. Tom, you have an idea for the title? No? Whatever the title of stop motion, all right? Because that's what it would be when you're going to be doing it. So I'm going to change the color here. All right, as long as you have something in there. And my caps lock is on. What does the checkered background in there mean?
There's nothing there.
Nothing.
It's transparent.
It's transparent, right? So would we necessarily? I think that will fill it in with black when we render this, right? Ben, didn't we find that out yesterday?
Yeah.
So if you leave this as a checkered transparent background, it would make that black when it's rendered. So you probably don't want to have black type. Or another solution would be to just make another layer, and you can fill it in with like a solid color, which I'm going to do here. So I'll make this all that. And you know what? I'm just going to fill it in with black anyway. And then that way I can see kind of how this is going to look. What happened to my text? Why did it disappear? Yeah, but my text was white, wasn't it?
Oh, it's in front of it.
It's in, what's in front of what?
The black layer is in front of the text.
The text layer, right? So we want to drag this down. All right, now I see my title. All right, does everybody have something like this? Now, I think our title, we should probably have, I think this would be good. So, and let's kind of, this will give some good practice for examining the timeline. I'd like your title to be 3 seconds long. All right, so if you look at your timeline here, and I can zoom in a little bit more to see that, all right, we should have it going from 0 to 3 seconds, all right? If we were to zoom in really closely, it's going to show you all the frames. Right, so at 12 frames per second, it's going 4, 8, another 4 would be 12, but that equals a second, right? So that's, I'm going to probably come up with a math problem related to that, because I think talking about frame rate and determining values of that would be good to do with that. All right, so let's see. So that would be our next point. All right, so I want everybody to create text, and I want it to be 3 seconds long, and your video starting like immediately after that. All right, questions before I come around and like kind of examine and see who needs help with that. So, all right, so it should look like this. We're going to talk about how to do some animation in Photoshop here, all right? We're going to have our title rise up and fade in. All right, so I would like everybody to watch this the first time, and I'll do it again. Please stop what you're doing and watch the screen, because what I'm seeing is a lot of you guys are trying to do it as we go, and you get distracted or something, and then I have to come around and reteach it. All right, so please pay attention, watch what I'm going to do. All right, so what the first thing to do is to open up this layer here. I'm hearing clicking. I will blank your screens. I don't want anybody, because this is probably new for just about everybody in here, right? So you should watch it and then we'll do it together, all right? So when we open up this layer here, right, or this arrow, we see that we have a couple different attributes, I guess you'd say, in here. All right, if you've taken my class before and we've done some animation and video editing, this should look familiar. All right, so what these are all things that you can animate in this layer. All right, so we're going to click the stopwatch for transform and opacity. All right. So what that does is it gives the software or this layer the potential to be animated. All right, it's saying, and what happens is when we do that, it creates what's called a keyframe, right? These diamonds in our layer here are representing a keyframe. I'm just going to turn off the middle light so you guys can see better. All right, so what does the diamond represent?
A keyframe.
All right, and what is a keyframe? I don't know if I really defined that.
It's like a point in like an animation of where something is.
Or where it changes, right? Think about all those frames that you had when you made your flip book. All the different pages, right? Those are all changes, right? Every time, even though it changed a little bit, that was still a point of change. So think of these things as being those kind of key points, all right? So we're going to say here that our text, now we're going to move it down. So our transforming, all right, so now our first point is going to be here. And then if I move it about halfway through, I can then move it back up. And look what it does on my timeline. It creates another keyframe. All right, and if we, as we call scrub through, we see it tweened or filled in the space in between there. That's where that word comes from, in between. And now if we play it, we see our title moving up. All right, so let's start with that one. If you ever want to clear your keyframes, we can just press the stopwatch again and it clears that out. All right, so let's all do this together now. First thing on your text layer is to click the arrow to kind of expose or show us the different animation things that we can do. All right, anybody not see that arrow or not how to open that up?
Arrow right next to the.
Right next to your text, yeah, where it says, mine says title of stop motion.
Okay.
All right, so I clicked it, and then I'm going to press what to create our first keyframe? I'm here. Anybody? What are we going to press? The transform stopwatch, right? That creates our first keyframe. So we open the arrow, we press the stopwatch, and now if we want this to rise up, really we want it to be, our first position is kind of down off the screen, right?
Transform.
We just click the stopwatch on transform and then move your text down off the screen. All right, now we're going to move our playhead because we're saying, all right, our text is here in the first frame, and at 1.5 seconds, all right, we want our text to be in the middle. So I moved my playhead. I'm going to move my text. Oop, I have the wrong layer selected. I'm going to move my, still not doing that. Maybe I need to lock this or something.
And then do you have to move the little blue side?
You just move your text up. Why is that not moving up? If I try my arrows, there we go. Sometimes if it's off the screen, you kind of can't grab onto it. So I just use the arrow to do that. All right. And now, yeah, the blue thing, PJ, I think what you're talking about is our playhead here, right?
You have to put a 1 second.
1.5, or about halfway through that duration. That way your title will come up and it'll kind of stay there for a second and a half so it can be read, and then it'll move on. To make our text fade in, we're going to turn on our opacity, or the stopwatch, and then at 0 seconds, we want our value for opacity to be 0. So that's in your layer palette. And then at 1.5 or wherever we want it to fade in, we just increase it to 100. And now we have it fading in as it's moving. All right, so at this point, we can adjust our sound. Actually, you know what? Let's do one last thing here. Let's do, because this is going to be kind of representative of our project. I'd like you to credit the music that you're using in here. All right, so I want that to happen like right at the end here. So I'm going to move my playhead over to the end of the video. My music is still playing. And then I'm just going to use my text tool. And I'm going to say music by, let's see if I still have this up. Oh, I lost it. Let's see if I go back, if I still have it. Yeah, at the end. I want your music credits to be at the end. I'll go back to YouTube, see if I can find it. And I think I did what, relaxing music. All right, so here's my music credit here. And I guess I can also take my layer here. And that's going to cover that. So what I can do to have this black kind of extending below it, I can just drag this to the bottom. And then I can extend this over. And maybe we make this title, our credits, another 3 seconds.
How do you put a page over the end?
Hold on 1 second. Where am I here?
What's that?
This is my meditation music. My relaxing music. All right, so that's going to go to 12. And then I'll make my music extend over there.
Are we ready? I don't think you have much of a choice to be fair.
All right, so that's what I want to see for the demo today, all right? I want to see your title move and fade in. You have your video starting after the title. Your music's playing throughout the whole thing. And your credits at the end to the music. I mean, is your music not long enough?
No, I shortened it.
So you can just drag it back out and it should kind of continue where it left off. So, all right, so this would be our music and titles. So I'm going to save this as my Photoshop file. And then how do we make an MP4 file out of it? What do we do? You have an advantage. You've been doing this for a while. Let's see. How do we make this into a video from Photoshop? What do we have to do? Zach?
Export as
All right, as what?
render video.
Good. All right, so remember, file, export, and then render video. So we'll put it into there, and then you'll put your YouTube link into your summary today with all that in it.